Hey guys, it's Lyric. Welcome back to another video. Today we are doing a full spoiler reading vlog of my most anticipated release of the year. I know I've mentioned that multiple times, like, oh, this is a super highly anticipated release, or this is a new release that I've really been waiting for, but this one right here is the one of the year, of the whole year. No matter what other books end up coming out this year, this one right here is the one I have been anticipating the most. I'm so excited to finally have it in my hands. Reckless by Lauren Roberts. If you clicked on this video, I'm assuming that you've already read Powerless and probably Powerful. This is the first book in this trilogy, and then this is the novella. Powerful actually takes place throughout all of Powerless, but in order to read Reckless, you don't have to read this novella. However, I would highly recommend because this was such a good novella. I haven't even read novellas, but I know that this has to have been a good one because it really drew me in, got me connected to the characters who we already get a glimpse at in this book. This one tore me apart. Absolutely loved it. But yeah, Powerless was one of the first books I read this year. I actually finished it on January 11th. Yes, I remember the day I finished this book. That's how much of an impact it had on me. And of course, I easily gave it 5 stars, but not only was this a 5-star read for me, it's one of my favorite books ever. I know it's not a perfect book. There are definitely things that I guess could be changed, but to me it's perfect. I love everything about it and I will never ever stop recommending this one. With all that being said, don't watch this video if you have not read at least Powerless. I will be reading the second book in this video, and it's going to include lots of spoilers on my thoughts and reactions to everything that takes place in the second book of this trilogy. Yeah, I think that's all for this intro. Let's dive in to Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I'm so excited. I'm so emotionally attached to Powerless and these characters in the world that having the second book after having just the first story in my head, I can't believe I'm about to like keep reading the story. Okay, gotta start. Am I dumb? Was that first whole chapter like the whole little... Who's A? Kai's like doing a little memorial thing that apparently him and Kit always do every year for someone named A. At first I thought it was their mom. What's their mom's name? Who is this? And then I was like, is it Adina? But they didn't know her not even a year ago. Do I need a refresh? Now I have to figure out who A is. Wait, I just remembered. At the beginning of the book, there's a map. And then there's a second page that I think is like the Azer family tree. I'm about to look at that and see if that can help me like figure out who A is. Ava Azer. They have a sister? Or they had a sister. Why do I feel like her and Peyton would be best friends even though I know nothing about her? Oh, that's so sad. And Kit didn't remember because he's dealing with like becoming the king and everything. Now I'm into chapter 1 and it's Peyton. My blood is only useful if it can manage to stay inside my body. My mind is only useful if it can manage to not get lost. My heart is only useful if it can manage to not get broken. Well, it seems I've become utterly useless then. We love a self-aware queen. The split second where Peyton is hiding in the chimney and Kai comes in with the Imperials and they're searching around for Peyton, and then the Imperials are like looking for her in other places in the house and it's just Kai, and Peyton can hear him in the chimney, and then he says, I imagined you pictured my face when you threw that knife. Isn't that right, Peyton? Tell me, darling, do you think of me often? And he doesn't know she's there, but he's saying this. The way if I was in her position, I would have slipped right down that chimney, run into his arms, and my life would have been over. I think I would have been fine with it. The way after all the Imperials leave the house and they're like, she's not here, Kai says to Peyton, not knowing that she's there, so it's like he's talking by himself, he goes, "It's a good thing you're not here because I still haven't found my courage." The Imperials and Kai caught a glimpse of Peyton as she was escaping the house, and she's running away, and she ends up having to kill one of the Imperials, obviously, because he gets in her way, and she keeps going. And Kai finds that Imperial, and he sees that he's dead, and he says, "She would have buried you if she wasn't so busy running from me, you know? So the least I can do is bury you for her." Kai is trying to catch this girl, but he's going to bury the Imperial, something he just wouldn't do, because he knows that she wishes she could do that, but she can't because she's running away from him. He's still so in love with her. And then he goes, "What has she done to me? Will her grave be the next one I dig?" Like, this man is literally out to kill her. He still loves her so much. Little update, it is the next day and I just read 2 more chapters. I'm only on like page 50 something, but so far Kai had like a where he saw Peyton in the desert, but it was like a mirage because, you know, being in the desert, dehydration, just seeing sand over and over and over, you start to see things. So yeah, there was that moment, and then Peyton ended up like collapsing because she just had no energy, and then she wakes up to a guy carrying her, and she can't see this man yet, but she's like assuming it's Kai, and she starts planning out how she's gonna escape him, and then she ends up breaking the guy's wrist, getting into a dominant position and like having him on the ground, and then she realizes it's not Kai and it's just some guard or something, and he saw her out in the desert and was going to take her to the city. I think the city she's going to is Door. He ends up realizing who she is, and then he's like, "Psych, bruh, I'm about to kill you. I want that money. I want that reward." Long story short, Peyton ends up killing him. This girl has killed now 3 people in such a short amount of time, and I feel so bad for her because she hates having to do it, but the position she's in, she kind of has to. But yeah, that's the part I just finished. But apparently the city she's going to and all of the city surrounding know who she is and kind of low-key know to keep an eye out for her, so Miss Girl has nowhere to like run and hide or just like vibe out for a little bit. I would just hate that, having to always be on edge. I wouldn't be able to sleep ever, because what if I die, right? Like, rest in peace. Can't do that, or else I really will be resting in peace, you know what I mean? Yeah. I just got to the part where Peyton found like this underground in the city. There's like this fighting ring going on, and she needs money. So she was gonna try to steal money there, but now she's like, why not fight and win, and then I can earn money. So she finds a guy that like runs the thing, and she kind of threatened that she would tell about his little thing he has going on, because you're not allowed to bet on players, but you're allowed to fight. But the illegal part that he does is that he allows people to bet on winners and stuff like that. So she's now about to fight. When I'm reading, I always really want to have a good visual of the atmosphere or the environment that the book is taking place or the scene is taking place. I'm realizing more with this book specifically, sometimes the less explanation there is, the better the picture comes out in my head, because I feel like when it comes to the setting and the environment of specific things in this book, Lauren Roberts doesn't go into too much detail. For some reason that like translates to having more detail in my head. I don't know if it's like that with every book I read, but sometimes whenever the book is so descriptive about the setting, the perfectionist in me is trying to picture it exactly as it's being said, and when I can't, it frustrates me, and it makes it harder for me to picture it in my head. So something about it staying a little more vague makes it come alive easier in my head. It's like my brain takes over and just creates the details on its own. Yeah, just something I realized just now, because like this underground fighting ring and everything is so vivid in my mind right now. Okay, I don't know why I slightly barely just teared up, but Kai is kind of just roaming around the city. It's nighttime, he's vibing out, and then he realizes that someone's about to steal his pouch of money, and he's like, it could be Peyton, she doesn't know it's me. So he like hooks his ankle around and catches the person, makes him fall. Then he turns around and gets a glimpse at the thief, and it's Abigail, the redhead girl whose family he banished, but he, instead of like killing them,
he banished them and sent them off, and they survived because she pointed the knife or the dagger at him, and he recognized it and remembered that it's the one he gave her. I literally immediately stopped to update you guys about that. I haven't read anything past that, but like, I'm so glad she survived. That's so cool. Like, I was not expecting that. It's funny how much Abigail is like what a young Peyton would have been, and even Kai realizes that. He says, "What have I created? The similarities between them are startling. Was this what she was like many years ago, teaching herself how to survive on the coins from another's pocket, refusing to focus on the fear she felt? I can't seem to escape the thought of her, the sight of her and those surrounding me. It's infuriating. And what's worse is that I may have just helped craft what will soon be another version of the thief who got the best of me." Abigail is about to take him to, actually, she's taking him directly to Peyton's fight, but not intentionally. She just heard that there's like a new contestant, and she was like, yeah, I'm gonna try to bet and like earn some more money so I could take it home to my mom. And she's bringing Kai, her new bestie, with her. So that's gonna be fun. He's gonna watch Peyton fight. They're gonna see each other again. My reactions to Kai as are simply speaking are so embarrassing, but every word that comes out of that man's mouth, I'm like, anytime that man opens his freaking mouth, I'm committing it to memory. I'm storing it away here and here. There's so much tension laced into everything he says. I don't even understand how. Guys, we're in Kai's POV, and he just made eye contact with Peyton, and then this is his inner monologue describing that look when they both recognize each other and their eyes connect. Just listen to this. Her eyes drift from face to face, searching, frantic, afraid. And then those ocean eyes crash into mine. It's electric, this look, though not like it used to be. The invisible tether between us is now charged with our past, our present, our future, with everything we once were and everything we are now. It's a hostile sort of harmony, both of us finally fully aware of what we are to each other. Nothing, just the shell of what was, what could have been. I used to welcome the idea of drowning in those blue eyes of hers, but now, seeing the disdain she stares me down with, I realize that drowning alone wasn't what I craved, but sinking together. That's good. That's so good. The guy that runs the underground fight, he's asking Kai who he is because Kai just challenged Peyton and her fight name is the Shadow. He's asking Kai who he is and Kai goes, Flame. Her eyes leave mine long enough to roll. My smile is sharp, though she can't see it behind the bandana concealing the bottom of my face. If she is Shadow, then I am Flame. That's so petty. This girl is the very thing I can't seem to escape, can't seem to go anywhere without the remnants of her following. Where I am, she is, whether it's in the flesh or in the fragments of my mind. And where there is a flame, there is always a shadow. She is my inevitable. Am I overreacting? Don't answer that. Peyton just caught Kai and she's giving him a proposition. She says if she wins, then he lets her go. And if he wins, she'll go back to Ilya with him without throwing up a fight. Oh boy. I can feel the heat of her gaze boring into mine, though I can only make out shadowy features in the moonlight, and I'm thankful for it. Thankful for the blessing that is being unable to behold her, because when darkness hides those blazing blue eyes, I can pretend that she is nothing to me. Just a shadowy figure that feels like her, smells like her, talks like her. Just a stranger in this strange place that I will never see again. But the moment the sun comes up, shedding light on my dark reality, I can no longer pretend, can no longer steal what I want when duty has me bound by a leash, dragging me back to my destiny. But here, she is no one. Here, I am nothing. here we are, forgotten. This book is gonna take me weeks to read because there are phrases and words like that on every other page. I love Lauren Roberts, guys. I'm actually in love with her. I'm kind of nervous. How do I pop the question? I need to get a ring. They're both literally face to face in the shadows, so they can't fully see each other right now, but they can like really feel each other. Like the tension is tensioning. And Kai goes, "You promised to be my undoing, so prove it. Prove it," I repeat, voice quiet. "Hate me enough to make me want you." I cup her jaw, feeling her eyes burning into mine. "Ruin me." Kai. Our mouths What? Did I skip it? What? Kissing each other while her dagger is still drawing his blood. Is it unhealthy to underline every sentence on one page? Thoughts? What do we think about that? Is it allowed? Are we normalizing that? Can we normalize that? Because I fear I'm gonna want to do that on multiple pages in this book. Scenes like this are better than any smut scene ever. If there is good tension, oh, I'll take a good tension scene over smut any day. Please, please, please ignore how ugly, nasty, disgusting I look right now. I've read about 30 pages, and so I wanted to give like a little bit of an update. We left off right at the part where Hayden and Kai are fighting. The next chapter, he unveils her hair, and everyone in the area is like, "Oh my goodness, it's a silver savior. We need to like capture her, blah, blah, blah." But before they really can do anything, Kai's like, "No, she's mine. I'm capturing her," because she also revealed who he was. So they were like, "Oh, you're you. She's her. She belongs to you. We'll let you have her." So yeah, she kind of agrees to go with him. She does try to escape, I think. And then Kai ends up catching her. She's not like fully trying. She just kind of wants to mess with him. And then there's a part where Kai's kind of just observing her, and I had to underline this because it's really good. He's thinking to himself, and it says, "I can't seem to decide what's more frightening, watching her stop fighting or watching her die. What is she without her fire fueling her? A shell of the silver savior she once was, the ghost of a girl I was willing to ruin myself for? If she fights for nothing, she lives for death. But if she burns for something, she lives for hope. I want her to fight for me. I want her to burn for me, even if it means with hatred." The day a man thinks about me, like, actually, how would that even happen? If a man ever thought like that about me, y'all are never hearing from me again. I'm gone. It's me and him together forever. And honestly, the rest of what I've read today, they did have like a one bed trope moment, except it really wasn't that at all. Kai ended up letting Peyton have the bed because she's just so injured and tired. And even though they just are supposed to be killing each other, they can't. And he also has to return her alive. Like, that's a thing. But even if he was told to kill her, I don't think he could. And I don't think Peyton can, because there have been multiple moments where she actually could have killed Kai. And she has no reason to not, but then she just doesn't. Like, they can't do it. They just can't. The rest of what I've read hasn't been super eventful. However, it doesn't have to be eventful for it to be so entertaining, because when Kai and Peyton speak to each other, no matter what they say, tension, chemistry, you can feel it no matter what. So far they've kind of been bickering, going back and forth, traveling back through the desert to go back to Ilya, obviously. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. So they're on horses, and Peyton's sitting in front of Kai, and she like ends up falling asleep. She's leaning back on him, and this is like Kai's inner dialogue again. Her breathing is melodic, hypnotizing in a way I hate admitting. And then later on it says, "She's held between my hands, solid against my chest, head on the pounding heart of her captor. I've never seen such peace held so gently in the arms of death." And then right before he has to wake her up, it says, "I allow myself one moment, one selfish moment of my miserable existence committed to her, to a girl in the arms of a boy, to a facade." I actually am stopping right at the part where after that night, when they're on the horses in the desert, they stop and they're taking a break. They're going to bed. The last chapter I read ends with Kai waking up to an arrow landing by his head, and then it looks like the next chapter is starting off with Peyton saying to Kai, "Looks like I'm being saved." LOL. Like, the people are coming to fight Kai and save Peyton. I don't know who it is. I don't know what's going on, but that's where I'm at right now. I'm having so much fun with this book. Literally, I love it. I'm gonna give y'all an update of everything I've read today, but for now, all I gotta say is the end of chapter 25, the drowning. I literally want to read off those last 2 full pages. Ah, I love them. Pretend, I whisper against his lips. I am recklessness incarnate until the very end. My mouth meets his. He tastes like longing, like regret and relief, like nothing matters but this moment. It's fervent, like a sinner's final prayer, and maybe that's what this kiss is. Repentance. Not even just that part, everything before it. When he tells her, I don't regret it. I'll talk about this later. Just kidding, I won't, because the first line of the next chapter. She tastes like a piece of heaven I won't be going to. Kissing her is relief. It's a delicate sort of demand. She pulls away panting words between each kiss. I hate you. I know, I murmur into her mouth. Her palms push at my chest, pulling her lips away from mine to whisper again, I hate you. I run my hand slowly up her side. Prove it to me, Gray. I murmur against her ear. Hate me enough to use me. Her mouth is crushed against mine, and it's her I'll breathe in for the last time. Like, I know they're not gonna die, but it's literally words on paper. Like, not the literal tears. Okay, I'm gonna go collect myself, and then I'll update you guys later, because why am I crying right now? Last update, Kai and Peyton fell asleep and Kai wakes up to an arrow landing by his head, and then we basically get clued in that the people that are attacking them are there to save Peyton. Those were the people from the Reformation, I believe. Some of them were Peyton's friends, which I completely, like, this is one of those details from Powerless that completely just kind of left my mind. I remember the names, but I don't remember much more than that. I do remember that there was a Reformation, that they were planning on doing something at those final trials, and that's kind of, yeah, that's why everything went crazy. Yeah, I didn't like specifically remember any of the people. One of the main men, his name is Lenny. Yeah, he's like friends with Peyton, and so now Kai becomes the captured one. Lenny is taking them to this little area where his sister lives or camps out with these other people that are called, I forgot what they called them. It's like a combination of people that are ordinaries and elites. So they have powers, but they're very dull. Like, they're not. And so those are all the people that are staying with Lenny's sister. And Kai has never like fully seen these people. I want to remember what they're called. I actually don't see the official term for them, but they're the outcome of elites and ordinaries. And so there's this whole camp. I feel like this is going to be more of an important detail later on in the book, because Kai was like really paying attention and trying to kind of learn about this, because his power is drawing powers from other elites, and it's a lot harder for him to do that with these people because their powers are very dull. So I feel like they could be powerful against him in more ways than you would expect. I don't know, that's just something I was thinking about. So that happens. They keep traveling with Lenny. There's this part right before some action takes place, and Kai is watching Peyton fall asleep, and I just wanted to read this to you guys. We fall
falls silent and I watch her eyelids flutter with sleep. She's unbearable, really, but not in the way that makes it easier to look away. No, everything about her is a bold sort of beauty, like a rose proudly displaying its thorns. She's alluring in the way that most deadly things are. It's captivating. No, it's terrifying. It's supposed to be terrifying. Still thinking of her as something I'm trying to deserve. Still deeming her worthy of my desire. And then at the bottom it says, then I'm dreaming again, and it might just be of her. No matter how much they hate each other, the tension is always gonna be there. Their connection is always gonna be there. After that, Kai wakes up, it's still in his POV, and now his hands are tied to Peyton's, and I was like, why would Peyton do that? She didn't. They were captured. This time, the guy that ran that whole underground, like the fight stuff, he captured them and he wants a reward for both of them, which is actually so smart. He said, not just the silver savior, give me the prince and her. I want the full reward. But yeah, he's put them in the cell and Peyton starts freaking out because I think she can't fully tell her surroundings. Her eyesight is like covered or something. And the way Kai calms her down in this moment was so sweet. I'm not really gonna read about it, but they were bound back to back and he tells Peyton to stretch her legs out so she can like tell that there's space, and then he's like talking her through. He's like, see, you're okay. And then he tells her that he can stretch his legs out too. Nope, he can literally tell that there's a stone wall directly in front of him and he's crunched in a tuck. But he said that to like comfort her and help calm her down, which was, I loved that. Then we have a random chapter with Kit. His advisor, I think, is basically suggesting that he needs to find a wife. I feel like the chapters with Kit are not irrelevant, but they're so random. I'm waiting for it to all tie in towards the end, but every time I get to one of his chapters, I always finish it feeling a little confused. I'm like, okay, all right, I guess that kind of makes sense because that's exactly how Kit feels right now. He's so confused. He's now the king of Ilya. This man is just, his dad is dead. I guess that makes sense. Okay, and lastly, like the last little update for this section. Kai and Peyton come up with a little plan. We don't even hear about the plan. They just like, you know, they come up with a plan and then they're about to execute it. This is how they are escaping the prison. The way they're bound back to back, Peyton would like rest her head on his shoulder and then he would rest his head on her head. I know, they're bound together. I don't care, it's still cute. Let's not mention the bondage. But this is part of Peyton's inner dialogue and it says, at my weakest, I wish for him, and at my strongest, I wish I could say it wasn't the same. He rests his head on mine, gentle and grounding. I hate that he feels like that. Feels like comfort incarnate. Incarnate? Ugh! Ugh! I love that she admits that even at her best, at her strongest mentally, she still wishes for him. Sorry. That was like an evil laugh. We get to the last clip where you saw me crying. That was because of this next part, the part where they're trying to escape and they escape through the sewer, but then the sewer starts flooding and they literally think they're going to die. Both of them. This is when you know a book is written good. I know they're not gonna die. I mean, come on, I'm halfway through. I know they're gonna make it to the end. Like, well, I hope. My battery dying right now, that's insane. My camera battery died and the other one's in the house and I can't get it right now. But continuing, they both think they're gonna die. And the dialect, the way they act, the things they say to each other, ugh, so emotional. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna read this off. And you guys have read this, so I'm trying to help you relive the experience. That's the point of spoiler reading vlogs like this. Kai says, Peyton, the water seems to still for his soft voice. No, I say sternly, don't do that. Don't go saying my name because you think it might be the last time you ever will. He has the nerve to chuckle. Your name seems like a good word to die with on my lips. Peyton goes, Kai. And then he says, I don't regret it. He's answering her. Chapters away, she asked him if he regrets their kiss on the rooftop. And he's just now answering because he didn't answer back then. And he says, I don't regret it. His words are a rush, a confession he's clung to. I don't regret you or what was between us, and I don't regret kissing you on the roof. But I know I'll regret what I have to do to you for the rest of my life. Then he says, do you regret it? And Peyton goes, I regret not doing it right. I regret not being what I'm supposed to be. And then he says, I'm sorry you have to be anything at all. And then Peyton is thinking, and it says, I know it's all talk of a dead man, all confessions of two people suddenly aware of their imminent doom.
but I melt at his words, mourn what could have been, and now I'll drown in the regret that is him. At this point, I was crying. Tearing up is the better way to phrase that. Later on, still Peyton's dialect, my heart aches to be reunited with the piece he's stolen from me. My nose brushes his. Pretend, I whisper against his lips. I am recklessness incarnate. Until the very end, my mouth meets his. They are kissing while about to drown and die. He tastes like longing, like regret and relief, like nothing matters but this moment. It's fervent, like a sinner's final prayer. And maybe that is what this kiss is. Repentance. End chapter. Okay, last chapter. I think I read a lot of this in that other section where I was tearing up. Next chapter, Kai's POV, exact same moment. She tastes like a piece of heaven I won't be going to. First off, what? Kissing her is relief. It's a delicate sort of demand. I hate you, I say. I know. She pulls away, panting words between each kiss. I hate you. I know, I murmur. Her palms push at my chest, pulling her lips away from mine to whisper again. I hate you. And then he says, prove it to me, Gray. Hate me enough to use me. Later on, her mouth is crushed against mine, and it's her I'll breathe in for the last time. That did it. That right there did it for me. I kiss her frantically, memorizing the feel of her lips against mine. It feels like finality, this kiss, this moment. Later on, she says, are you scared? And he says, I'm brave enough to admit that I'm terrified. I only wish I could see her face, count the freckles splattering her nose one last time. I wish I could drown in those ocean eyes before the water gets the chance. They do end up escaping. At the very end, Kai actually still thinks he's gonna die because of like the amount of water that got in his lungs. The last sentence in that chapter, I sink into oblivion, the thought of her, my final prayer. So that's the update. I'm gonna read more and then update you again as this book slowly but surely ruins me. What? Who says things this good? I don't want to finish the book. I'm scared. This is why I don't like reading books I think I'm gonna like. I'm not gonna go to bed at peace, am I? Yeah, not tonight. Like, I don't even want to do this. And then what am I gonna do? Months before another book. I know how this is gonna end. I don't think I'm gonna be surprised by this ending. A specific thing happened earlier in the book. This was the first thing that came to mind, what I think is about to happen. What I would do to be in Kai's head. That's another type of torture. Oh, buddy. So somebody's gonna need some therapy forever. Permanently. Somebody's in a pickle. The poor boy. Okay, here's our little situation. First off, don't comment about my hair. It's super wet right now. That's why it looks really flat. Last update I gave you guys was about 50% through. So I actually finished it. You guys already know I have to film all of my stuff when my parents aren't home, or I have to film out in my car, and that just makes the process of filming YouTube videos so much harder because I have to schedule in that specific filming time with work, and then that has caused me to start reading slower because I won't read if I can't film, but I can't film if the circumstances aren't where I'm able and safe to film. It just makes things hard, and I just wanted to read this book when I felt like it. So I finished reading this, but we're still gonna go through because I wanted to give like a full spoiler vlog so we can still go through what I read and talk through things. So that's what we're gonna do right now. I feel like Reckless is giving very much second book. Anytime I say second book, I'm not referring to Akatar, because Akamov, the second book in that series, is one of my favorite
favorite books ever, but this one definitely feels like it is setting things up for an insane third final book in this trilogy. There is a lot of dialogue between Kai and Peyton. There's like a lot less of stuff happening. There are like events taking place, obviously, that we're reading about, but a lot of it is like their slow build up from enemies to lovers again, and a lot of that is through little moments with each other and a lot of dialect. But yeah, it's definitely more slower paced than Powerless, and I can easily say Powerless is still easily my favorite between the two. However, their tension and just the things Kai says and this world in general make me still love this book, and I still love a lot about it. But let's hop back into our updates. We were left off with the sewer incident that happened. They both end up getting out. Turns out Kai took some shackles, like chains and shackles, from their cell, and when they escaped, he ended up sneakily shackling one end onto Peyton and the other onto him. Peyton was a little bit upset about that, as she should be, but at the same time, I think she also understands why Kai would do this. That's a big topic in this book. Both of them have moments where they have to take action and do specific things, but the other always realizes that it's because they have to do it. It's not always because they want to. And since they're both in those situations, they're kind of sympathizing with each other a little bit. It's hard to explain. But during that moment, or earlier on in the book, Peyton tells Kai, she's like, you do not get to say my name. Like, don't let my name be on your tongue. I don't want you saying my name. At the end of one of those chapters, this is Kai thinking to himself right before they go to sleep. Saying her last name only reminds me that she doesn't want me to say her first. It hurt losing that privilege. Losing the right to something as intimate as her name rolling off my tongue. But I will respect her wish, keeping her name trapped in the confines of my mind. Okay, so Kai and Peyton end up getting to Door, I believe. Yeah, enough about that. The next chapter had to do with Kit, and this really solidified what the ending of the book was going to be. Actually, it was very obvious to me how this book is going to end. When Kit's advisor gave him that box, I immediately knew what was going to happen. He's going to ask Peyton to marry him, because both Kit and Kai were in love with Peyton. Now, I'm still a little confused on Kit's behalf. I think he's in love with her friendship level, but a little bit more, but not to the point where he's delusional enough to think that she is fully in love with him. I think he knows that she has love in her heart for him for sure, but in the back of his mind, I'm sure he could see what her and Kai have going on. Some people found Peyton and Kai and kind of started trying to catch them. They ended up sneaking into like this club, but you know, it's one of those clubs where the women are literally on the men as the men play games or gamble or do whatever. Peyton and Kai had to have one of those moments where they just pretend. That is the theme of this book, just pretend. And they ended up getting away from those people that were after them because they really just like immersed themselves into that scene, I would say. Then we have the chapter where Kai tells Peyton how he had to kill her father. That had to happen. Both of them killed each other's fathers, and so they both in this book have moments where they fully share what happened and what they were thinking and what they felt when those things were taking place. And of course, after Kai has told Peyton, she immediately has another moment where it is harder to hate him, even though she really wants to. The way Kai's father was, he didn't want to do the things he was forced to do, and the fact that Peyton's dad was his first kill is crazy. But he really goes into detail about that, and then Kai says, not what you wanted to hear, was it? Makes it harder for you to hate me. And she says, harder maybe, but not impossible. The next chapter, Kai is being like intimate again, and he tells Peyton about his little sister. I think these chapters, the ones where it's Kai talking about his sister or at the graveyard, like that type of stuff, those are some of my favorite chapters. I don't know what it is about them. They are so sweet and beautiful. But he tells Peyton about his sister. It says, everyone joked that she was the prettier version of me, and when I looked at her, I saw the best parts of myself. And the reason they got to this topic was because Kai started braiding Peyton's hair, and she's like, oh, I'm sure you've practiced on a bunch of other girls. Nope, his little sister was the only girl he had ever done that with. That was so cute. His younger sister was weaker, and that's why the father hid her from the kingdom and everything, because obviously he's obsessed with elites and having powers. And Kai's little sister, she wasn't fully elite, like she was very weak. One of the things Kai would do for her is like kiss her fingers. She had partial powers. I think she was able to climb. I don't know. Don't ask me about that. I don't remember. But he would kiss all her fingers, especially her thumb. It was just like the sweetest little thing he would do for her, and it would make her feel so powerful and feel better about herself. So yeah, that was a really like intimate chapter where Kai's sharing his experiences with his sister. I got ahead of myself talking about when Kai shared about his sister and kissing her fingers. That ends up happening now because they start talking about their last or their first dance or something, and Peyton mentions like she remembers all the details very clearly, and Kai says, I kissed your hand before we danced, don't you remember? And then my lips found the pad of your thumb. I hadn't even realized I'd done it, and until that moment I hadn't done it in years. And that's where he tells her about his sister, and then Peyton says, you loved her very much, and he says, I did, I do, and I've never kissed a thumb that wasn't hers. And then Peyton says, so why mine? And he says, your spirit is similar. You remind me of what could have been. In another life, I think Ava would have grown up to be like you. What, you wanted her to be a criminal? No, I wanted her to be formidable, recklessly bold, powerful despite ability. That was so good, because another big topic has been how Peyton doesn't have powers, and she hates feeling powerless, and Kai, he just always knows what to say. Once again, I find myself walking the sharp end of a blade knowing it will inevitably cut me in the end, and yet my fingers find his hair. My body presses against his. My heart beats to be broken. And then to end this night, Hayden goes, I used to do this with my father because they're dancing together. She's standing on Kai's feet as he dances, like he's helping her dance. And then she says, he used to dance for me until I fell asleep. And Kai says, then we'll dance until you're dreaming of him. Do you know how much that means that he says, we'll dance until you're dreaming of him? The man that I killed, your father that I killed, I will help you dance until you dream of him. While you are quite literally standing on my feet, I'm dancing for you. Go take a pause break and think about that one. Okay, for a good bit of the book, Kai and Peyton are still traveling, trying to get back to Ilya. There's more dialect, more scenes, but then we finally make it to this might be one of my favorite scenes in the whole book, and that is the scene with like the watering hole. Sanctuary of Souls is where they end up, and there's this big like watering hole. Oh, that chapter was beautiful. The way I picture it in my head, and the things that are said, the things that they do. Such a beautiful scene, but this is one of the moments I wanted to read from it. Kai says, we are enemies with history, enemies who hate each other. You don't hate me. Oh, I have every reason to. But that doesn't mean you do. I huff and push my palms against his chest. Put me down. He holds me tighter. You know what I think? No, actually, I don't care what you think. And then he cuts her off and says, I think you hate that you can't hate me. Oh, I can hate you just fine. Then hate that you feel something for me. Hate me for making you want this. And then a raindrop falls. And you know where we're going now. The setting gets perfect. There's hands on each other. And then Kai goes, you gonna kiss me, Gray, or just continue admiring what you see? And she says, still contemplating drowning you, actually. And he says, oh, darling, I already am. And I'm begging you to let me breathe you in. And Peyton says, I thought you never begged. I'm getting used to it when it comes to you. And then they have the most beautiful scene. Oh my god. Something about being in the water with rain and kissing. Gonna do it every single time. I'm never getting tired of that scene. Never something I will tire of. And then the last line of that chapter, let me swim for the both of us. Because Peyton can't swim, so Kai swims for the both of them. Such a beautiful chapter, one of my favorite ones in the book. Next chapter, Peyton's just watching Kai as he sleeps, and it says, he looks like relief. I doubt he's ever felt so free. There isn't a soul besides mine and those surrounding us who knows where he is. And there's a certain comfort in being willingly lost, hidden from life itself.
Okay, and then this part of the book, there's this moment where bandits come out of nowhere. They end up shooting Kai, and his shoulder gets majorly injured. Hayden's like, all right, I am the only person that gets to hurt him, and I loved that scene. So she goes off and she kills like a good bit of them, and then she feels so bad about it because you know Peyton, like that's just not what she does. They continue on. She ends up clearing the path. Her and Kai continue on after she's like really worked on trying to fix his wound, and then out of nowhere, another guy that she must have missed or something is right behind them. He has his arrow pulled, and Peyton turns around ready to shoot, but Kai does it because he knows she can't actually bear the pain of doing it again. He's like, I am tainted, like you're not. I will do this for you. You do not need to defend me anymore. You don't need to kill anymore. I've got it. And that was a really good scene. And so they end up getting away to a safe spot where they're able to just regroup a little bit. Peyton gets out her dad's journal, which is the only thing she saved from the house before Kai burned it down, and she starts reading it. And this is where we learned a lot of information about her dad, because her dad started the Reformation, and so we get some pieces of that throughout the whole thing. This is how she ends up learning that her dad and the lady that she thought were her mom were not her birth parents. She was dropped off at her dad's house by, I'm guessing, were other ordinaries that just didn't want to deal with her or have to defend her all the time. That kind of breaks her a little bit, and Kai, obviously, he helps put her back together. But this journal, it is like a new discovery for both Kai and Peyton. They both discover new things through this. Peyton, it's her family, like the people she always thought she was related to. She learned a lot about that, and then not only that, but the description, everything her dad is speaking about. Kai is realizing that his father has done horrible things. His heartstrings are definitely siding with the Reformation and Peyton and all of that stuff. That was a big chapter for the both of them. Oh my goodness, the part I forgot to mention where Peyton is broken and she's just so sad about what she's learned about the family that wasn't her family but was her family. She's like about to cry, and Kai goes, shh, you're all right. And Peyton says, no, I don't want you to see me like this. I don't want you to wipe my tears away. And he says, okay, I won't. Another tear escapes my eye when his lips brush against the pad of my thumb, like he only did with his sister. The action is so small, yet so significant. Now that I know the meaning behind it, I swallow at his willingness to share something so special with me. But then he takes that thumb and guides it towards my cheek to wipe away a tear there. He then pulls it back to his lips, kissing it again before using it to wipe away another one of my tears. And then he says, you're strong enough to wipe away your own tears, but too stubborn to let someone care for you. That is so intimate, and the amount of love within that gesture says so much. That right there really got me. That's one of those things, like, how could you read this book and read that part and be like, I'm not really feeling Kai. Stop lying. Go to therapy. You gotta clear some things out up here. And then we're getting to the end. They're still on their journey, and they finally get to like the field of flowers that is like shows that you're literally approaching Ilia. You can see the castle from here. They're in this field of flowers, and there's this moment where they're laying down. I loved this whole scene as well. It was one of my favorites. All of the kissing scenes in this book were top notch. They were just all really good. This is actually the last one in this book, I believe. And Kai's just like looking at her, and it says, it's hard to believe that something so beautiful would willingly stare at the likes of me. I feel undeserving of her gaze, of the way her eyes roam over my face. I shake my head, still staring down at her. Don't look at me like that. Like what? She asks softly. Like I'm worthy of being seen. And then she just simply says, dance with me? For however long you want, darling. Knowing that this could be their final moments together. And then there's this point where things are just getting, like, her and Kai, the tension is so palpable in the air, and Peyton gets frustrated. She's like, why won't you fight me? Because it's easier for them to hate each other when they're fighting and there's problems. And she says, why won't you fight me? And then Kai says, because the next time I lay a hand on you, I only ever want it to be a caress. And then a little bit later in that scene, Kai says, Gray. And then Peyton goes, say my name, I whisper. Please. which meant a lot because Peyton told Kai to not say her name. She's like, I never want to hear my name come out of your mouth. I know he hasn't said it since we escaped the prison, since I told him he lost the privilege of calling me it, and he's respected my rule ever since. But I crave the sound of my name on his tongue. I want him to shout it from a rooftop, whisper it in my ear, trace it on my skin. I want my name to form a familiar shape in his mouth, tasting of my lips. I want him to own my name and still beg when he says it. Or maybe I just want him. That section right there. One of my favorite parts of the whole book. He says my name like it's been on the tip of his tongue, whispered into every breath he's taken. And then at the end of that chapter, another one of my favorite parts, literally made a TikTok about this. He reaches over and gently flicks the tip of my nose, making me giggle in a way I didn't know I could. I love that sound, he murmurs, making me fall silent. I would tattoo it into my skin if it meant you'd laugh at me for doing it. He loves the sound of her laughing so much that he would tattoo the sound of her laughing into his skin, only because that could possibly make her laugh and he'd get to hear it again. Okay, and then after that scene, they get caught, they get brought back to the castle, or not really caught, they were on their way back anyways, and then Kit makes his announcement. Everybody's in the room, everybody's there, they're trying to figure out how he's gonna punish Peyton, the Silver Savior. And you know what ends up happening? He asks Kai, he's like, did anything happen between you two while you were out there? And I don't get how Kai like didn't catch on to this at this moment, because like I mentioned, since halfway through I knew how this was gonna end. But he asked Kai that question, Kai's like, no. And so Kit asks Peyton to marry him. Oh, and the way Kai is internally breaking. That's how this book ends. I felt so bad for this man. It says, I'll lose her forever while being forced to watch. I can't even look at her. My vision is blurry, eyes fixed on the day above. This is how I lose her. Not by death, but by something just as binding. The command rings in my head, and to think I wasted so much time trying to hate her, to think I won't have enough time to love her. My heart aches because every beat belongs to her, and I may never get to tell her that. I could laugh, I could cry, I could burn this place to the ground like I did her house, just for a chance to confess my love before the flames consumed me, because I am bound to her very being, hers until the day she realizes I don't deserve to be. I will smother every emotion but the one that belongs to her. I will love her until I am incapable of the feeling. She is the torture I may not survive. Eagerly, she is my undoing. Her gaze lifts, meeting eyes that are not my own, eyes of the man who gets to have her if she allows it. She was supposed to be my forever. Now I'll watch her become someone else's, because the beast doesn't get the beauty. And that is the end of our reckless journey. Wow. I am so excited for Fearless. I feel like this really sets it up. Like, there's definitely gonna be a lot going on, because now Kai and Peyton are like this, basically. The marriage thing with Kit, this is gonna put a big rift between Kit and Kai, and they're both in powerful positions, fighting over one girl. Oh! I'm so excited to see what Lauren does with Fearless. I know it's gonna be good, and I know I'm gonna be obsessed with it. But yeah, thanks for coming along with me on this reckless reading journey. I had so much fun with it. I think I'm gonna end up rating this book 4 stars. It's not 5 stars for me. It was definitely more slower paced compared to Powerless, but it also makes sense because it is the second book. They needed to do that. There was a lot that Kai and Peyton had to go through in order to get from their major enemies points to lovers, I would say. It did a good job of setting things up for the next book. I do feel like we could have had a little more action or something that took place. There was a lot of dialogue between the two of them, which if it was any other book, I would be complaining because I don't want that much dialogue. However, the tension between Kai and Peyton, I enjoy it so much that I can't complain about that. I'm gonna end up giving this book 4 stars. Still, I absolutely loved it, and I really liked some of the kiss scenes. I think they were done really well, and the environment that they took place in was stunning. I just have really pretty pictures in my mind of where these kiss scenes took place. Those really have a chokehold on me, but would love to hear all your thoughts, all your comments, how the ending turned out, anything you want to say about this book. Please comment it down below. That's kind
kind of the whole point of this video is for us to talk about it. But yeah, it was so nice getting to be in this world with some of my favorite characters ever. Lauren, I love you. If you ever want to send me an arc of Fearless, even if it's like the day before it comes out, that would probably actually be one of the greatest days of my life. I'm just throwing that out there. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Love you all so much, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.